Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a while since I've interrupted your day with an announcement, but this one is just so exciting to me. This is something that I have really wanted to do for a long time, but getting the right person here to help me with this has been a challenge. But it turns out that we were just waiting for the right person, and she's been here all along. So I'm really excited to announce that today we are officially launching the Women of Color Women Empowered in Cannabis Community. And it will be moderated by my dear friend and a dear friend of the community, Miss Kindness. So welcome, Miss Kindness.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's so exciting.
So for those of you, for those of you who don't know Miss Kindness, you are going to get to know her very quickly, and you are so fortunate to have her as a group moderator. She is one of the most generous women I have ever met. And I think I was texting something about you yesterday, and I said, you have a way of touching my soul with love. And every time that I engage with you, I walk away feeling emotionally released, supported, and seen. And it's such an incredible gift that you have to make women feel seen. And that's it's something that we really miss quite a bit, is knowing that somebody understands our pain without criticism, can hold that space to allow us to express ourselves, but then follow it up with that sense of healing that comes when you are actually seen and heard. And you have just such an incredible gift to do that. I know you're going to lead this community with love and generosity and kindness. And that is why I'm just so excited to have you here. So let me just read your bio, because for those women who aren't yet familiar with you, I want them to understand how lucky we are, because what experience you bring to the table is really going to help make this group just such a dynamic and wonderful place. So Miss Kindness is a master educator. So she is a teacher by trade. So, you know, that brings a certain amount of patience with her that we're all going to benefit from a lot. She is the CEO of EBK Apothecary and founder of Club Kindness. She's a motivational coach, a CBD entrepreneur, a wife, a mother, and a cannabis advocate. She is, I'm sorry to be reading this on the side, but I'm having massive computer issues today. So just bear with me here. Miss Kindness is not, okay, this is her given name. Miss Kindness is actually her given name. And her father must have had some cue from the universe about how she was going to grow up and the spirit that she was going to share with us. So appropriately named. And most importantly, it's a calling for her. Her passion is fed by a desire to bring inclusive health education to the masses via excellent, I don't know, what is pedagogical?
We can talk about pedagogical practices and what that is real quick. Yeah. It's pedagogy. It's how you teach. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, let's have that conversation. Tell me, because this is going to apply to how you're going to be leading the community.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking as you were talking about me, like, I don't know who she's talking about, but I'm so grateful. Every time we connect, we cry. So I was trying not to cry. But I'm so appreciative of that. And you've heard me say this, it's just me reflecting the beautiful community that we're trying to serve. So I'm really excited that there's been space carved out within WEIC for women of color. We've always been here, right? We know that in the existing group, many are going to come and join WOC for conversations that might just be unique to a community of women of color. And right now, with Black women really being at the front of it. And that I'm excited to be a part of, to learn from, to moderate, and to help guide. And yes, via excellent pedagogical practices, because pedagogy is the art of teaching. It's how we teach. It's what are the techniques and skills that we employ to reach an audience that we really are hoping that will learn from us. And one of the things I say is, in order to be effective as an educator, you have to meet your students where they are. So I'm really excited to just see where everybody is in the group, how we commune and go right there and meet them, and then together rise, right, and continue to educate. I'm
So what
looking
are
forward
some
to
of
it.
the things that you feel are uniquely facing women of color in the cannabis industry that you are going to foster conversation, foster connection around?
First I want to say that I think the same things that impact all women impact women of color. And what's unique about us being women of color, obviously, is that we're reflective of we're this microcosm of the larger society. So we know what happens to people of color in our society, how we're marginalized via systems, excuse me. And as women of color, we really have been the backbone, I think, for all people, the least protected class in our universe that I know. And with that comes a lot of ancestral trauma, pain, knowledge, and that's what I want to tap into in this group. What can we talk about that we've learned, and how can we take that seed and out into our community and foster growth among everyone, even those who don't look like us? Challenges include all the same systemic challenges that we see. In cannabis, we have a unique opportunity to really show how a new industry can be done. And we can do that as women together, but we have to make sure that we align on the things that we all just agree on, right? Those fundamental things like equity, women's rights, our freedom over our bodies, those kinds of things. We can all tap into and stay connected on that as we move forward, for real impactful change.
One of the reasons that I really wanted to launch this group and have for a long time is obviously I'm a white woman. And as much as I can create a space for women of color, I feel that you need a space that it would be like a women's group moderated by a man. My understanding, it only goes so far because I haven't walked in your shoes. And I felt it was a little inappropriate to try to moderate a conversation with women that it wouldn't really have been super authentic to me. And I think it wouldn't have really fostered the kind of communication that is really necessary. So thank you so much for taking the reins on this. And I just want all of you to know that everyone, of course, is welcome, as they are in all of our communities. But this community is not for women of color to explain themselves to the rest of us. This is not
Thank you for that. Yes.
This is your community. This is your conversation. You lead it. You decide what's important. Of course, we will follow the guidelines of all women empowered in cannabis communities of what can and cannot be posted to protect the group and to protect the conversation. But I want you all to know that Miss Kindness is the one who will determine the conversation, not me. And so this is a place for women of color to find each other within the community, and also to offer up a place for our community to have a place to connect with other groups like Supernova Women, like Can Inclusive, all of the other communities that are coming up. This is not an attempt to erase. This is an attempt to support. And that's one of the other reasons why Miss Kindness is going to be leading the charge, because it will be determined by her where and how those collaborations take place. Because again, it is not my place to determine that. So all women are welcome in this group, but the conversation is for women of color. So
it will be rooted in and centered around women of color, and with really, I'd like to say this, with Black women leading that conversation around all women of color within the cannabis space. Absolutely.
And I really hope that we will see more leaders emerge. Come
on, y'all, come on.
I think as we move forward into the new year, we're really going to be focusing on leadership. And that also means, how do women of color lead? And, honestly, you do a much better job at it than we do.
We've been doing a lot of work for a really long time. So
yes, you have. And, one thing that I've noticed is the ability to unify, which we are lacking in the industry as a whole. To create solidarity, we are lacking. And I think that in terms of leadership, we can really learn a lot from what Black women have done to pioneer feminism, whether it was in the 60s or now with Me Too. becoming the first woman first woman president, also happens to be a Black woman. Stacey Abrams' new documentary just came out. She's leading the charge on voting rights. We are really blessed in this country to have so many women of color who are willing to step out in that role. And I had a really interesting conversation on my podcast with Mary Pryor recently. And, you know, she really brought to light the fact that these women have been victims who now have taken on the charge of being the fighters and the leaders who are still being harassed and trolled and pushed back on and not supported and attacked, and yet continue every day to get up and lead the fight. So,
and that's what we've historically had to do, and that's the activation that I really want to tap into. My plight is to turn everything positive. That's who I am. I'm excited for conversations that have varying opinions from me and views, because that's truly how we learn. So I think as a moderator, I'll do a good job of managing those conversations, despite whether or not I personally share the exact same value. We have to stay focused on the end goal, and that is what's best for the collective. So
what are some of those end goals?
You know, for this group, I would like to see that there's some initiation of change politically. Like we've talked about this within WEIC, right? I'm like, at some point, we're going to take this to where we are activating impactful change through policy. So here, if we can come up with some sort of consensus or manifesto for what we would like to see happen, and then work with WEIC as a whole to really push a message forward that's going to change things. I don't just want to talk about change. I like actionable, you know, what are some things you really want to see happen? What are you doing in your community? If we can pull some leaders out of here, get some women to run for office. I mean, these are things I'd like to see happen with the group.
Well, let us know in our other groups how we can support you. We will follow your lead. Anything that you want for us to do to show support, please let us know. Also, you're going to have a show. You're going to pick up a live streaming show to accompany Business Our Way and Talking Trailblazers, which I'm super, super excited about, because you're going to actually get to feature a lot of women who are leading in the cannabis space, either as activists, policymakers, or CEOs. Can you tell us a little bit about your show?
Yeah, so we're calling the show Culture in Context. And when I think about cannabis, I think about as women of color and people of color, how we've been shown to, obviously, we've been vilified, right? On one side, and now here we are trying to enter this space as entrepreneurs and as business women. And so we're working to change the stigma. And all of that is the culture. And I think it'll be exciting to kind of put it in context via whoever the guest is. We can cross verticals, right? Because we're just talking about women of color. So what's it like to be a Black woman in CBD versus what's it like to be a Black woman in THC, cultivators? We can go a lot of places because we're really focused on that unifying factor of being a woman of color. So I'm excited about the different conversations we're gonna have. I want it to be a really fun show, less serious, but business leaders really talking about how they're able to integrate cannabis into their lifestyle and how they keep it fun and healthy. And what's their culture?
How are you going to bring into the conversation the issues around social justice and social equity? Each state is going to be having their own issues. We do get a lot of questions. Anytime a new state comes on, we tend to get a flood of requests for women in California and Colorado and Oregon who have experience with social equity. And then on the social justice side, making sure that people who are wrongly imprisoned for cannabis violations, those records are being expunged. So there's two really big issues that are of great importance to women of color in cannabis specifically. How are you going to be integrating those conversations?
I suspect that those topics will be the meat and potatoes of a majority of the conversations that we have in the group, because everything will be centered in how people of color are impacted by cannabis and how we move throughout the space of cannabis. So social equity is undoubtedly a main topic. I think, as we're having this conversation, I can expand on the idea and think that we might even have to do a series in Culture and Context on social equity. Really reach out to leaders in that realm and say, let's highlight, what are creating this sort of manifesto, this is what national equity should look like. I think, you know, we're going to just be talking about it all the time, and we'll weave it into every conversation, because that fundamental question is, what are you doing? What is your company doing to give back to the community? And how are you being accountable, right? We know that CanInclusive has the accountability list they're working on. That word is really important. I don't like cancel. I think it should be accountable. So, because that allows us to continue to keep looking at, can I do more? What am I doing? Reassess versus wrong, right? What's right, and how can we add more right to that? So, yeah, I don't know if I answered the question. Sometimes I just get
No, that was a great answer. It was a great answer. And I'm just thinking I would love to see a conversation with you and Tony and Whitney about specifically kind of going through Whitney's story as she is trying to open her dispensary.
And having fundraised and done lots of sides of this, right? Yeah.
The yes, the no, the loss, the gain. I mean, her story has, just watching from the outside, I don't even know how she has had the energy to hang on, because she's, the issues with the city, pulling the just one thing after another. Yeah. It's not just been, okay, here's the program, we're going to execute on it. Here's the process.
And you know, who should be developing those programs are us. Like it's women of color and men of color in cannabis who've lived this, who've experienced it. That's who should be developing the programs. So we need to just continue to give a voice to that. I really am appreciative of how much reach we can do via these types of groups. And I love the internet, frankly. So I'm excited to be a part of an organization as a leader that I really have always respected, working with women like you. And finally, you know, timing is everything. So this is perfect. And you know me, I say now forward, not it should have been. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's right. Today, here we are. And I'm so grateful that you answered the call that I sent out to you as yes.
Let's put the culture in context.
I can't wait. And if you are not able to tune in for any of her live interviews, we will be keeping you up to date through our email newsletter. So make sure that you've signed up for that if you're not receiving our newsletters yet, because you do not want to miss any of her interviews. Before we go, speaking of interviews, I just want to let you ladies know that if you would like to join the community, you will be able to join. We'll put a link in these threads of this video. And if you think that you would be a great candidate to sit down and actually do a live video with Miss Kindness, please reach out to her through the group. You're welcome to submit a post when you join, introducing yourself, talking about your company, your goals, your questions, conversations you would like to start. And let's get this community rolling. I cannot wait to see what you do and how we can better support women of color in our community.
I'm looking forward to learning and growing with everyone. Thank you so much, Kira.
Thank you. And thank you, ladies. And I look forward to seeing you in the Women Empowered in Cannabis Women of Color community, launching officially today. Mwah! Love you, ladies. Boom. Have a good one.